The community was called Viridian Estates, a picture of suburban calm. High walls, a guarded gate. Families lived here seeking peace. They believed they were safe. Michael, a veteran, understood security. He was a consultant, highly skilled. His mission to protect Viridian. He designed their shield piece by piece, a network of trust and technology. He walked the grounds daily, checked every camera, every sensor. The system was his creation. State-of-the-art, comprehensive. It watched over the sleeping homes. Residents knew Michael, respected him. He wasn't just a contractor, he was their guardian. His presence brought reassurance, a silent promise of safety. This system was more than wires, it was more than software. It represented Michael's dedication. His years of experience poured into it. He knew the vulnerabilities, he knew how to counter them. The Homeowners Association, HOA, praised his work. They renewed his contract, year after year. Viridian felt impenetrable, secure, under Michael's watchful eye. But beneath the surface, things stirred. The illusion of perfect safety. Like all illusions, it was fragile. Michael believed in his system, he believed in his duty, he couldn't know what was coming. The very people he protected, the structures he trusted, would soon become his adversaries. The fortress was about to be tested. It started subtly, almost unnoticed. A flicker in the surveillance feed, an odd log entry, quickly dismissed. Michael was meticulous, he noticed. He flagged these small anomalies. Minor glitches, he thought initially, or perhaps attempted minor mischief, but the pattern became unsettling. These weren't random hardware failures. Someone was probing the system. He reported his concerns. To the HOA board, the ones in charge, he explained the irregularities, the potential for compromise. He recommended upgrades, tighter controls. His warnings seemed to fall flat, met with polite nods but no action. A strange indifference, he felt, from the very people responsible for the community's safety. Then came the clear indications, unauthorized access attempts, logged from within the community network. Not external hackers, but someone inside. Someone with privileged knowledge. Michael felt a chill. This was no longer theoretical. This was an active internal threat. His system was designed for external foes, not betrayal from within. He doubled his vigilance, spent more hours monitoring, cross-referencing data, looking for clues. Who would do this? And why? Was it a disgruntled employee? A resident with a hidden agenda? The questions piled up. The sense of unease grew. The whispers in the wires were becoming louder, more ominous. The tampering escalated. It was no longer subtle probing. It became direct interference. Key components of the security system began to malfunction, then disappear. Cameras went offline, mysteriously. Data logs were altered or erased. Michael found access panels opened. Equipment he had installed was physically removed, seized. He confronted the HOA board, demanded an explanation. Who authorized these actions? Why was he not informed? This was his system, his responsibility. Their answers were evasive, unclear. They spoke of internal reviews, necessary adjustments, they called it. But it felt like sabotage, a deliberate dismantling of his work. The HOA then took a drastic step. They terminated Michael's contract. Effective immediately, they said. No formal review, no discussion, just a curt notification. The reason given, restructuring security protocols. It made no sense to Michael. He had built their security from scratch. Now, he was being locked out. His creation turned against him. The equipment seizures continued. Even after his termination, they took proprietary software, custom-built hardware components, things essential to the system's integrity. And to Michael's business, it felt like theft, plain and simple. He had invested years, his reputation, into Viridian Estates' safety. Now, it was all being undone. The situation worsened quickly. It moved beyond contract disputes. The HOA's attorney became involved. A new aggressive front opened. Michael received a letter. Not a discussion, but a demand. It was filled with accusations, false claims about his conduct, allegations of unprofessionalism, and threats of legal action. The attorney accused Michael of endangering the community, the very community he had protected, of trying to sabotage the system he had painstakingly built. It was a complete inversion of truth. He was being painted as the villain. The attorney warned him to cease all communication, to return non-existent HOA property. The threats were explicit. If Michael pursued his claims, for unpaid invoices, for his equipment, the HOA would ruin him. They would ensure he never worked again. This was not about security anymore. This was about power, about intimidation. A clear message: back down, or else. The attorney's words were cold, calculated, retaliation, pure and simple. Michael was stunned, then angered. He was a veteran, a professional. He wouldn't be bullied so easily. These were baseless accusations. He had documentation, evidence to refute every single claim. But the attorney's tactics were clear: to crush him with legal pressure, to silence him with fear. The fight was just beginning. Section 5 Courtroom Echoes, a temporary victory, a lingering threat. The HOA attorney made good on threats. They filed for a temporary restraining order, TRO, against Michael, their former protector. The claims were outlandish, false, alleging harassment, threats, instability, things Michael had never done. It was a tactic to discredit him, to paint him as dangerous, to justify their earlier actions, and to scare him into submission. Michael had to defend himself in civil court against these lies. He hired an attorney, gathered evidence, text messages, emails, contracts, witness statements, system logs. The truth was on his side, but the legal process was stressful. It was expensive, time-consuming. His reputation was on the line, his livelihood at stake. The courtroom drama unfolded. The HOA's attorney presented their case, full of distortions, misrepresentations. Michael's attorney countered methodically with facts exposing the inconsistencies. The judge listened, examined the evidence. It became clear very quickly the TRO was baseless, a misuse of the legal system. The judge dismissed the TRO, a clear victory for Michael. The court found no evidence to support the HOA's claims. It was a moment of relief. Justice, it seemed, could prevail. But the victory felt hollow. The damage was already done. The false accusations were now public record, and the retaliation was far from over. Section 6. The Fallout, a career derailed by falsehoods. The HOA and their attorney were not deterred by the court's decision. They had other ways to harm Michael. They took their false claims, the same discredited allegations from the TRO, and forwarded them to Michael's employer. He worked as a security consultant for a major corporation, a sensitive role. His employment depended on trust, on a spotless reputation. The letter sent to his employer was filled with damaging falsehoods. It painted Michael as unstable, as a security risk himself, the very opposite of who he was. His employer launched an internal investigation, but it felt predetermined. Michael was given little chance to present his side, his evidence, the evidence that cleared him in court. The corporation terminated Michael's employment. They cited the allegations from the HOA's attorney. No due process, it seemed, no regard for the court's dismissal. His career, built over decades, his service as a veteran, his expertise in security, all undone by lies. The retaliation had found its mark. Michael was devastated. He had lost his job, his professional reputation shattered, all because he tried to do the right thing, because he built a security system and then questioned its dismantling. The system designed to protect the people he trusted had turned on him, viciously. The fight for truth became more urgent. Section 7. Broken Oaths, when policies are just paper. The web of retaliation spread. It wasn't just the HOA or their aggressive attorney. Michael discovered something more alarming. Local law enforcement seemed involved, or at least influenced. He had reported the equipment theft, the unauthorized tampering, to the San Francisco Police Department, SFPD, hoping for a proper investigation. But his reports went nowhere. Instead, he found himself targeted by what appeared to be coordinated efforts. False narratives were being spread not just to his employer but potentially within law enforcement circles. SFPD policies were violated. Procedures for handling complaints, for investigating theft and misconduct seemed to be ignored in his case. If Michael had been a sworn officer, he would have been protected by the Peace Officers' Bill of Rights, guarantees of due process, fair investigations, access to information. but as a civilian, a consultant, reporting wrongdoing by others, he found himself exposed with few formal protections against this kind of systemic abuse. The very system he respected, the rule of law he believed in, appeared to be failing him. Policies were just paper if those in power chose to ignore them. Oaths to uphold justice seemed to mean little when it came to protecting powerful interests, or retaliating against a whistleblower. This was a deeply troubling realization. Section 8, The Unseen Wall, the State Bar's Closed Doors. Michael sought accountability for the HOA attorney's actions, the false claims, the threats, the instrumental role in his job loss. This seemed like clear misconduct, a violation of ethical duties. He filed a complaint with the California State Bar, the body responsible for regulating attorneys, for upholding professional standards. He provided extensive documentation, the court records from the TRO dismissal, the threatening letters, the false statements, evidence of the attorney's campaign to destroy his reputation and livelihood. He believed the case was strong, a clear breach of ethical conduct. He expected a thorough investigation. He hoped for some measure of justice, some acknowledgement of the harm done. The State Bar's response was disheartening. They declined to investigate. Their reasoning was opaque, citing lack of sufficient evidence or that the conduct didn't meet their threshold for disciplinary action. It felt like another door slammed shut, another institution unwilling to look closely at the facts, to challenge those in positions of power. This refusal was a heavy blow. If the State Bar wouldn't act, where could he turn? The attorney seemed untouchable, free to continue such tactics against others perhaps. It highlighted a systemic problem, the difficulty of holding professionals accountable, especially when they are well connected or when their targets lack resources. Section 9. The Long Road to Truth, One Man's Unfinished Battle. Today is May 21st, 2025. Michael's fight is not over. The events took a severe toll, emotionally, financially, professionally. His life was upended by a cascade of retaliation, all stemming from his work to secure a community and his refusal to stay silent when that security was compromised. He continues to pursue justice, exploring all available avenues, seeking to clear his name fully, to hold those responsible accountable. It's a grueling uphill battle against entrenched interests, and a system that seems protective of its own, at times. But Michael is persistent, driven by the need for truth. His story is a stark reminder of how easily truth can be crushed, how quickly protectors can become targets when they challenge the status quo or expose uncomfortable realities. It illustrates a culture of retaliation that can permeate even seemingly peaceful communities and involves powerful legal and local figures. His experience is a cautionary tale for anyone who dares to speak up. The pursuit of truth requires resilience, an unwavering belief in justice, even when the path is dark and the obstacles seem insurmountable. Michael's journey continues, a testament to one man's courage to fight for what is right, no matter the personal cost. His search for accountability remains an unfinished battle.